up, all you DC loving dudes and dudettes? Toy Shiz here, and I am back at again to give you guys another retro shiz look back at the past. And today, we're not doing Spider-Man or Marvel or anything like that. We are going to Mattel for their DC Comics The Batman animated line from way back in 2004/2005-ish, right on the cusp there. This was quite the action figure line to collect. This, if you thought some Mattel distribution was bad nowadays, back then, you could always find the more like Arctic Blast Batman or, you know, Calico Cat Batman or whatever. But no, this was trying sometimes. And this was also back in the day where you didn't have sites like Toy Shiz and stuff to tell you constantly when new products were coming out. So it was kind of like a guessing game. Also, they had Toy Fair and, of course, Action Figure Insider and things like that, which were my go-to. They always reported on it, and that's how I knew, especially Justice League Unlimited, the Batman, things of that nature. But as difficult as it was sometimes to find these toys, these were great. So today, we're going to do, just in time for DC Fandom, of course, this Saturday, August 22nd, we're going to look at the original Justice League lineup that came out for the Batman. Now, the Batman was an interesting cartoon show, a lot of redesigns when it first came out. When they showed them, they showed the design, especially the Joker, people lost their minds. This was an interesting line, we'll just say that, both in collecting it, how it was distributed. There was a ton of repaints for this, even some of the villains got repaints, but for these particular Justice League Batman figures, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, things like that, it was mainly the last season. It was season 5 of the Batman. So they went full-blown into like Brave and the Bold / Justice League territory. Every episode was pairing them up with a different villain and then also the hero that coincided with it. It actually was a pretty good season. The season finale, or series finale, I should say, was a little bit lackluster. But the entirety of the show was actually pretty cool. It was totally different beginning, but they created their own world where these designs fit. They used a lot of old DC comics to kind of create new, interesting stories. The character redesigns, I think, were the best part. And that's why I think these action figures really just lent itself so well. They captured the designs. I love a good action figure line when it looks right out of the cartoon or movie or whatever that I'm watching. So can't recommend these enough. But that being said, we're going to look at the Justice League figures, so all the characters with that, maybe even a few surprises at the very end. And then tomorrow, there might be some villains. We'll look at all the villains for the Batman. So I'm not going to go wave by wave. I didn't collect any of the weirdo Batman figures. It was just every single character from the show that you could possibly get. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee. This is a look back at the 2005's The Batman cartoon show action figure line by Mattel. Now, in really starting this video off, one thing I want to point out is that towards the end of the line, which is a lot of these characters that we're going to be talking about today, finding them in stores was almost nigh impossible. Yeah, you could find certain ones, mainly Batman, and I think you could find Superman. Those were the two that I found. I actually came across a Hawkman like months later after it had come out, more towards like the clearance sort of aspect towards the line. But it wasn't until, I think, a couple years later that I got the Flash, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern off of eBay, I think it was. So, yeah, these were difficult. But once you had them in hand, you were like, oh, man, these are cool. Now, keep this in mind. They all use the same body type for the most part. Batman is a little bit different. He had his own body type that they reused a heck of a lot. They put different pieces and attachments here and there. So let's go ahead and start it off with Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. Now, he showed up in the Batman again on season 5. He looks straight out of the comics, but with that cool Jeff Matsuda redesign that they did. He had the white gloves, green boots. Again, same body type as a lot of these leaguers that we're going to be looking at. Interesting face sculpt. I think it was okay. They could have put just a little bit more. He kind of looks like he's smiling, but at the same time, you can't really see what he's doing. The mouth kind of disappears, you know what I mean, within the skin tone. He came with a Green Lantern battery, which is very cool, and that was it. Some of these later figures, as much as you wanted to put all these goofy armors and everything else, strap-on stuff, these ones were kind of bare bones. They just kind of kept it as, here's the figures and enjoy. But yeah, a power battery, that's always nice, and I believe this may have been a reuse from Justice League Unlimited if I'm not mistaken. So, very cool figure. I highly recommend. The articulation was basic. You had at the heads, the shoulders, elbows, and then of course right there at the waist, and then he would have knees. So, again, not bad articulation, but the thing that really presents itself was that it was spot on to the cartoon, the designs, and that's why I really appreciated this line. Same thing with the Flash. The Flash sharing the same body type, same exact articulation, different head, but I think the head really nailed it on this point. This cartoon showed the Flash as having, like a darker red costume, but they went more gold instead of yellow on his head and boots and like the accents of his costume. The yellow lightning bolt in the middle, I would have preferred to be gold just to kind of at it more, just to keep his colors, because now he's kind of all over the place. But it was cool. You could get him into positions to run and such. And no, he did not come with any accessories, which, again, not really too shocking. Martian Manhunter, same deal. But this guy actually came out really great as well. When they put in just a little bit more here and there, you could really tell, they were doing some good stuff. He's got the red straps, the cape, very much old school Martian Manhunter, which is my favorite design for Manhunter. A lot of days, the new designs, the redesign, everything else, it just doesn't fit. A lot of these characters, they do so well, especially in the minds of fans, especially me. They're better as a simplistic. It's more the stories that they're involved with. The costume, if it's too busy, you start thinking about that too much. So keep it simple, keep it great. Love the more muted colors. Now, I do think he should have been a little bit more green. He's a little bit too dark. He almost blends into the blue of his costume, his boots and such. One other thing is that you'll see in a second, Batman and Superman have cloth capes. I would have loved to have had, keep the collar, the plastic, but if he would have had a cloth cape, I think that would have fit a little bit better. Although I'm not complaining because it is a nice cape and it fits him well, and in some aspects does give him a little bit more stability in standing him up. Out of all of these, Martian Manhunter tends to fall over. We'll just say a lot of the joints went kind of gummy in certain areas. But next up is the big man Majama himself, Hawkman. Now, Hawkman's wings are removable. You can pull them off if you'd like to, display him without. Comes with a big red mace. The detail on the mace is nice, it's okay, but it's all one plastic, of course. Think of these were, $6.99, I think, back in the day, so not a whole lot of paint deco on these, but Hawkman himself does look quite good. Again, it's the classic costume for Hawkman. He looks fantastic. He's got the big hawk ears things going on. The wings, I would have preferred a little bit more articulation, but the simplistic way that these attach, and they attach well, is actually pretty cool. Same exact articulation, same body type. The head sculpt, though, is where it's at. Very animated, very much the Batman, so I definitely appreciate that. Which does now bring us to the Man of Steel himself. Now, Superman, seeing him on the Batman, we were coming off of Batman, the animated series. Again, when we all saw the designs for the Batman 2005, it was jarring. It was like, wow, I'm so used to Batman, the animated series. This is different. But again, they created a world where these designs fit, and Superman's design fit as well. He was a little bit different, a lot more chiseled, of course, but he did look rather cool. Now, mine's gotten a little bit warped over the years. Some of the joints have been kind of gummy here and there, but a little, hot water, sometimes that'll straighten him up. I've straightened this a million times. It just keeps going back, but I love the cloth cape on him. The colors are fantastic on this guy. He's got the little hair, S thing going on. Kind of bigger hands, fits more with that Jeff Matsuda art style, so I definitely appreciate that. He's very stylized, very elegant looking Superman. And there was a variant that came in a 2-pack. He was more the kryptonite poisoned Superman. Again, I never saw this in the store, and I've never picked one up. I'm hoping to get one day. We will see, but it's the exact same figure. And again, in this line, it wasn't that unheard of to do a bunch of different variants, but out of all the leaguers, Superman was the only one that kind of got that redeco. All the other ones stayed the same. But in either case, I do definitely recommend this Superman. Before we get into the last guy, I just want to say this. The one character that did not get a figure was Green Lantern. I had heard it was slated, as with a number of other characters for the Batman. However, it just never saw production nor release. So, you know what? It is what it is. It would have been great to kind of complete the entire TV show's version of Justice League, but unfortunately, there wasn't a Green Arrow design. Which then finally does bring us to Batgirl. See, I told you there would be a couple surprises in here. Now, immediately not a part of the Justice League per se, but she was involved in the episodes with the Justice League. So Batgirl, out of, like, say, normal continuity, we would say, just going along the Robin to Batgirl to things like that, Batgirl actually showed up in the show first, being that Robin was under a mandate because of Teen Titans being on the air at the same time. When that show ended, they finally brought out Robin. So you had Batgirl and Robin, which are two excellently designed figures. They're really gorgeous. They match the art style perfectly. They don't exactly, let's say, match up in terms of scale. Robin is huge. He's got a big head to him. Batgirl, smaller. But they had that really cool maquette style. Also, the articulation was basic on these. The heads, the arms, and the waist. That was basically it. Nothing else turned. They didn't have knees or elbows or anything else like that. Robin and Batgirl both had cloth capes, so they were a nice design. They're very cool in the color schemes. There was many a repaint for these, including one, again, that I didn't get. It was Batgirl in a red costume. She did have the Barbara Gordon head to her unmasked, but I thought, I didn't see it on the store shelves. Although now every time I keep talking about this, now I gotta get the Superman and I gotta get the Barbara Gordon figure. Come on. So, in either case, again, in matching these up with the style, the artistic nature of this show, they are two knockout figures, which finally leads us to the Batman himself. Now, I always call this Batman Reno Romano. It's the voice actor behind this particular Batman, but he was just cool. I like the voice for this Batman. It was very dry sort of voice, but it worked. And it worked in the terms of this universe. He wasn't overbearing, let's say, like Kevin Conroy, and he wasn't Christian Bale. You know, this was a different sort of styling for Batman, and his voice fit really, really nicely. Almost like Terry McGinnis's Batman, like having more fun with the character instead of always being brooding. Although they did kind of change that later on, and they did have a future episode as well, which is kind of cool. Batman, they started this line off with giving Batman this grappling hook Batman, right? So when I saw this, I'm like, oh, cool. So I buy it, bring it home. Then you find out the thing does not come off his wrist. It is sculpted on. So I had this figure for quite some time. Now, later on, later wave, they did do a regular Batman without it. But I always thought that was so interesting that they started off with just, it almost reminded me of like the grapple belt Batman from animated series. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of that. So I liked it in that sense, but you could also remove that and have a normal Batman. Combat belt Batman was the exact name, actually. But again, with this particular Batman, it fit the style perfectly. He had his own sculpt that is different from the other Justice Leaguers. He was just a really nice Batman. It was the cape, though, that really made it a big, oversized cloth cape, cloth goods. It was fantastic. I really loved the design of this guy, the white eyes, the chin. They also had a Batman in a 2-pack with Bane. He was more of the beat-up sort of version from that particular episode. He had all kinds of bandages all over him, which was a cool Batman to get, I will say. And the painted-on bandages actually look nice. He's got some tattered bat clothes. His skin is showing, he's beat up pretty good. And he got beat up pretty bad. So bad, in fact, that the network censors were like, we can't ever have Bane come back. He did show up later one last time, but yeah, it was kind of ridiculous, you know what I mean? But they also had a Bruce Wayne. It was kind of like the old Batman Returns, Batman to Bruce Wayne sort of deal. You got more of that Bruce Wayne head. That's mainly what I got it for. So it was cool. It was something different. And really, the feet actually remind me of the old Batman to Bruce Wayne Kenner figure as well. So different. I've seen many people pop this head off, put it on a different Batman. He did often just remove his cowl and just have his Bruce Wayne head, you know what I mean? So you could definitely do something like that. Now, in starting off with the show, if you notice, Batman had more of a kind of pointed chin with a sloped nose. Not really a very poignant bat nose, and in subsequent later seasons, they developed him to having more of a square jaw to kind of show that time had passed. So it did reflect in the action figures. In the beginning, he had more of that elongated chin, but then had a bat nose. Whereas later down the road, they resculpted the head, gave it less of a nose, and kind of squared off the chin. So you like to say, yes, you do have different types of Batman heads, more of the first season, second season, third season, and then subsequently later seasons, as you can see here, but they're all pretty great. So in kind of wrapping this video up, the Batman figures, while a lot of people, actually when I post this stuff, they go, what cartoon is that? You know what I mean? It's a little bit forgotten, I will say. But if you can catch it, you can catch it on DVD. Hopefully they'll put it on a streaming service eventually. But it is actually a pretty interesting show, and I will highly recommend all day the Batman versus Dracula direct-to-DVD. That is, if you like Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which I consider to be the best Batman film, this will probably be the second like, the stuff that happens in there is wild. It's an excellent comic book adaptation to cartoon, and it fits with the show perfectly. So I highly recommend. I saw that at Comic-Con at the premiere years ago. That was so much fun. People are losing their minds. They actually did a DVD box set as well, where they had the DVD, and then you could get the little mini Dracula action figure as well. So really, the Batman was a lot of fun, especially in the action figures. I'll tell you, honestly, while I love the show, I do love the action figures a lot more. The designs translate so well to plastic. Mattel did a fantastic job. Everybody, Greg Weisman, Jeff Matsuda, they all nailed it. I have many a memory of going to Comic-Con during these releases and getting the Comic-Con exclusives, meeting everybody, Tom Kenny, Kevin Michael Richardson. Those are my own little memories, but I treasure all of them. It was a fantastic time to collect these figures. But I'm curious to know if you collected them. Do you have any of these? Do you have to get them now? Comment below, let me know. And let's talk everything the Batman. And don't forget, coming up this Saturday, August 22nd, is DC Fandom. I'll have a lot of news coming out, and we'll have a look at more the Batman action figures, especially tomorrow with the Villains roster. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, remember, if you put dreadlocks on the Joker, make sure he's got a red smile as well, because you can't have either or. Bruce Timm had to learn that one the hard way. And when you do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.